Today we've got a real treat. I had the absolute privilege and honor to speak with Amy Vince, who is a EFT tapping coach. And I have to tell you, before these episodes, I don't do any research into the modality if I don't know anything about it. And I didn't really know anything about tapping beyond you tap on yourself in different spots. But she really blew my mind. Not only did we have an amazing conversation about healing, the modality, and how it pertains to women specifically, and the limiting beliefs that we have, but I also asked her to take us through an actual EFT session. And so if you're watching this, you're in for a treat. You can also do the session along with me. And if you're listening, it's also going to be impactful because you're going to listen to the words that she uses. And I think that that's potent as well because the words carry energy. And so please listen to the whole thing or just jump to the healing session if you if you're curious, but I encourage you to listen to the whole thing because she is just a wealth of knowledge, sincerely beautiful energy, and my experience, I'm still left speechless. I very much, after integrating breathwork into my life, just continue to reap the benefits of using the body as a portal for healing. And I found today that her modality, that EFT tapping, is just so transformational as well. And so if you're suffering right now in any kind of shape or fashion, if you're going through it and you're looking for a little bit of relief today, then let this be the container that you listen to and that you watch. That's all I have to say about it. I'm still reeling. Enjoy, and I'll see you on the flip side. Thanks for being
Welcome
here.
to the Sovereign Shift.
If something's
The
stirred within you
podcast
today,
for women
that's
ready
not
to
an
reclaim
accident.
their voice,
It's a shift.
their nervous system,
To go deeper,
and their
visit
power in a world that
thesovereignShift.ca,
demands they stay
where you'll
small.
find breathwork audios,
I'm Chelsea Eden
resources,
Dubeau,
mini
founder
courses,
of the Sovereign
workshops, and
Shift,
programs to
creator
support
of
your
your
reclamation
and your
body,
guide on this
mind,
breath-led
and
journey
soul.
into sovereignty
Like,
of self,
follow, and subscribe
system, and
wherever you
spirit.
get your podcasts. And
Each
toss us a
episode,
follow
I
on
sit
social
down with
media if you're so
powerful
inclined.
women
And
thought
remember,
leaders. Your breath
everyday
is your
revolutionaries
power.
and
Your
allied
truth
voices
is your
to
compass.
explore the real,
Your sovereignty
raw, and
is the
radical
revolution.
path to embodied sovereignty.
Until next time.
We talk about stress,
Stay sovereign.
burnout, addiction, motherhood, balance, sexuality, leadership, and breath-led spiritual awakening. And yes, we go deep into all things woo, the divine feminine, altered states of consciousness, intuition, ritual, and the parts of womanhood that have been exiled or dismissed as too much by patriarchal systems. Here, truth is medicine, breath is power, and your sovereignty, non-negotiable. Let's begin. Hello and welcome to this episode of The Sovereign Shift. Today, I'm extremely privileged to speak with Amy Vince, who is a 20-year veteran of the health and wellness industry, a certified massage therapist, nutritional therapist, colon hydrotherapist, Reiki master, and tapping coach. So she brings a wealth of expertise to her work and is very spiritually and scientifically focused. So since earning her certification as a tapping coach 16 years ago, Amy has witnessed profound transformations, both in her own life and in the lives of her clients. She's even used tapping to heal herself from painful chronic medical conditions. And as the founder of the Soar with Tapping app, Amy is on a mission to make the life-changing benefits of tapping accessible to people everywhere. So with that said, welcome, Amy. I'm so excited to talk to you today.
Oh, me too, Chelsea. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. Well, I am so curious. Who were you before tapping came into your life? What did you have to unbecome?
I was a mess. I was a
Okay.
bit of a mess. Yeah. Um, let's see. Massive people pleaser, massive perfectionist, um, unable to let down my guard really at any time because I was so vigilant about not doing anything wrong because in my mind that meant that there was I was unworthy or undeserving. of love. So I was really on the outside, I functioned pretty well, but internally there was a lot of anxiety and a lot of angst and a lot of judgment about myself and about how I operated in the world. So inside my head, it was, yeah, kind of a rat's nest. On the outside, it looked pretty good, but not great.
Yeah. And so so this was 16 years ago, right? Or was that even further back kind of thing?
No, I mean, it's been a process. So
Right.
I think it was at its worst about 16 years ago. But I think I've always been a bit of a seeker too, always curious about the hows and whys of my own behavior and even the behavior of other people, really trying to be a detective and unravel things so I could understand it better. Because I never liked who I was. And so I wanted to find ways to be better all the time. But let's see, it's been 23 years ago now, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And so that kind of fast tracked my curiosity and my desire to kind of get to the bottom of these things. And I was introduced to tapping probably 17 years ago. And then I quickly recognized it as a really powerful way, I thought, of kind of getting rid of my unwanted behavior and thought processes. Um, so I got certified shortly thereafter and have been working with a coach pretty consistently on my own stuff. But I had kind of limited success with it over the years, I'll be honest with you, because sometimes I would have a session and it would go great and I'd recognize that I was making progress, and sometimes it would just fall flat and I couldn't understand what the difference was. But it was about 7 years ago that I hit kind of another crisis point in my life where kind of everything was crumbling around me. Like I was doing really horrible in my job. I was close to getting fired. I was in pain a lot of the time. I was struggling with anxiety attacks on a pretty much on a daily basis. And I just started tapping, but I started tapping more like a stream of thought consciousness, but also getting really curious about why I was really struggling. So I was tapping through things saying, I know that I am afraid of failing, but why am I so afraid of failing? What horrible thing would happen if I failed? And then I'd be able to go from there. Like, oh, people would judge me and criticize me. And then that would mean that my worst fears are true, that I am unworthy and deserving. So I kind of siphoned down whatever my symptoms I was experiencing on the outside. I siphoned it down and I got down to what I call like foundational fears. And I recognized that those were the things that was the lens I was looking through life at. It was this unworthy and undeserving lens.
Mm.
And when I applied tapping to that in particular and was able to say like, well, no wonder I decided that's what was wrong with me because of this, and this that happened when I was a kid. And I didn't have all the information. I was just thinking that everything was my fault, like most kids do. And so I made these big sweeping decisions without all the information, without a really solid perspective, like a lot of different perspectives on what was happening. And I took that decision and I made it who I am. But is that really true? And so I started tapping from that place. And I had such a profound transformation within like, I was tapping about maybe a half hour a day for probably 2 weeks straight. And all of a sudden, I was able to take that lens off of my eyes. And it was like, oh my God, the sky is blue, because I could really see things so much clearer from that place and recognizing that it's not really true. It's not really true at all. I have more skills and more resources and more things to love than I realized. And of course, when that happened, I became really passionate about bringing it to the world and making it so that everybody can have that realization. It was so huge for me. And of course, I want to say that the healing happens in layers. I've had to continually work on this because I cleared that one level and it allowed me to kind of expand into that space and be more of who I really am. But then as I kind of required more of myself and life required more of me, then I kept bumping up against that same fear again. And I've had to clear it several times. And I will probably continue on that same track as long as I continue to be a seeker and continue to want to heal. But it does happen in layers. So it didn't go away completely. It went away enough for me to expand into the space that I needed to. And then it has continued to do that over time.
Oh my gosh. That's so powerful because when you're when you often combine a couple different modalities, right? So you're
Hmm.
doing tapping, but you're also, from what I can see, you're also adding life review slash metacognition into it, right?
Yeah.
Was that kind of the magic element that kind of changed everything?
Well, yeah, I mean, inherently, tapping has the energetic therapy, cognitive therapy, because you're actively talking about what it is you want to release while you're tapping through the spots, but it also adds in the somatic element. So it's a really beautiful combination of three different modalities. But I think while you are tapping and you're telling your stress center of your brain to kind of de-escalate the entire time, it allows our signals and our thought process to go past that stress center and get to that prefrontal cortex where we can make those logical
Mhm.
sound decisions. And so it kind of takes the spinning thinking out of the way and allows us to see the truth.
Right.
So it kind of does all of that at once. And that's why I think it's so powerful. But it wasn't until I stopped tapping on the symptoms, but I
Mm,
really got down to a deeper core level of where everything kind of, sprouted from and get to that root cause. That was the
okay.
most powerful part.
So then you're tapping into your subconscious then as you're doing this, right? And
Yes, yes.
so tell me a little bit about that, what that was like for you when you started to actually communicate beyond just your consciousness.
Um, it's a little scary. I mean, the subconscious mind, is can be our child, our inner child that has gone through all that trauma, and they are just desperately trying to keep us safe at all costs, and sometimes in really irrational ways, but still just operating from that little girl kind of perspective. And yeah, so that little girl often doesn't have a rational way to work through thoughts and processes. So we have to soften it and bring, like, heal the little girl, first of all, and just say, of course you were upset. Of course you were really hurt. And of course you developed these fears because nobody wants to be hurt like that again. So, of course, you kind of created this armor around you and these different ways that you adapted in order to try and avoid that again. And so we have to really honor and acknowledge and give that little girl and all of her feelings their day in court
Mhm.
so that she can let go a little bit. And then we can bring in our adult self and really kind of move the process forward from there. Like, so we get rid of that trauma, we neutralize that trauma with her, and then we get to our adult selves and we can say, okay, so this way that I adapted as a little girl is no longer working for me. And it's no longer really necessary because I'm not generally in that same situation anymore. And I'm not around those situations that were unsafe or those people that were unsafe. And so now maybe it's okay to let my guard down. And so you kind of have to do it in stages and in ways that make sense for how they occurred in the first place.
Mhm.
if that makes sense. I think
It
I
it
might have gone on a little bit of a tangent there,
No,
but
no,
but
I love it so much. It makes total sense to me as a
yeah,
breathwork guide, right? Because
yeah.
again, no matter how you're accessing your subconscious, it's always going to be through the body, whether you're
Hmm.
doing it with breath, whether you're doing it with tapping, right? You
Yeah,
notice that
yeah,
we're both like both of those things engage not only different aspects of our brain, but it's like with tapping, you're touching, like there's touch,
yeah,
there's
yeah,
sensory input, right? And
yeah.
I mean, I don't know anything about tapping at all, actually. And so my question is, are there certain spots on your body that you tap that reach different aspects of self?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. So we're utilizing the 14 energy meridians found in Chinese medicine.
Okay.
And as I may or may not know, the energy meridians correspond to different organs and different kind of emotions. Like the kidney, bladder, knee meridian has a lot to do with fear. The meridian that we access from this spot has to do with our stomach. I don't know all of the details about that, but what I do know is that any fear or limiting belief or disempowering behavior will create an energy blockage along those energy meridians. And that's why we tap on acupressure, specific acupressure points to access all 14 of those energy meridians because we don't really know which ones are holding the blockage. And so tapping on all 14 of them is the thing that's going to help release it most efficiently, most effectively from our system.
And what has been the most profound transformation that you've seen with someone taking your modality and
Mhm.
running with it?
Yeah. I'll, I had kind of a 1 minute wonder one with somebody that had a severe phobia of flying on an airplane. And in one 90-minute session, she was felt like she was over it completely, and she was taking a flight very shortly thereafter. And she emailed me and said, nothing. I was even smiling because of some of the suggestions that we were tapping into her system. So it had something like that. And I even saw her years later and said, yeah, I'm still fine, still doing great with tapping. I also had somebody that I worked with for over a year that had came to me with really severe joint pain and could only walk around or be active for like an hour and then was forced to rest the rest of the day so it didn't get too overwhelming. And within a year, we had gotten her to the place where she was fine and would go to even like a 2 or 3 day music festival and be tired afterwards, but a normal kind of tired as opposed to like severe joint pain. So,
Yeah.
yeah, so they span the gamut. I mean, I myself cleared myself of really severe lower back pain, like to the point where I was crawling on the floor to go to the bathroom. But within like 2 hours of tapping, once I discovered what the root cause of it was, and there's always an emotional element to even physical issues. And so neutralizing that is just as important as anything else is in our ability to heal that. Because if there's an energy blockage, we need to get that energy flowing again because that's when we get into a state of healing. Our bodies are designed to heal. It's us and our emotions and our thoughts that get in the way of that happening.
So tell me more about how the lower back pain, because I think so many people, especially let's say women of a certain age,
Yes.
um, the I like to say the geriatric millennials right now are starting to hit perimenopause.
Oh, I'm there. Yeah.
And so what I found really interesting with perimenopause is that there are so many symptoms that can
Mhm.
also just be related to chronic cortisol or also just a lifetime of emotional patterns, repeating patterns,
Yes.
traumas that sort of
Yes.
just now we've been doing it so long that they're just manifesting, right?
Yeah, well, the estrogen protected us for so long from
Right.
the effects of those thoughts processes. But then, with our estrogen lowering, that's when we get frozen shoulder and some of the other issues that go along with it. I have experienced those myself. And I thought, oh, well, it's just a problem that's just happening now. But the truth is, it was my thought processes
Mhm.
all along, but I was protected by that very special hormone. And
Right.
yeah, the
Yeah, it's a really interesting form of protection perimenopause is because it does show you kind of what needs to be healed. So in
yes, yes.
in your case with the lower back pain,
Mhm.
what did you find that that was tied to in your case?
So I'm also a real big fan of focusing on the chakras and kind of using those as a map to understand myself and understand what I'm experiencing in my body and why. And the lower back and even moving around, like the reproductive organs and lower back, kind of sweeping around in that general area. That's our second chakra, our sacral chakra. And so that is highly associated with our relationship with different things in our life and creating a balance between power and vulnerability between the two, a lot of different things. So, balance between power and vulnerability with our sexual, that sexual part of ourself, with our creativity,
Mhm.
with our money, with just relationships in general with people, colleagues, friends, that sort of thing, being able to have a balance in that area. And what I didn't have a balance in, what I didn't ever feel powerful in, was money.
Mm.
And I always felt very vulnerable and even weak. Like I really kind of judged myself for not being a better earner, not being more powerful in that way. And so when I started tapping, and we always tap toward the shadow, tap toward the thing that we judge or criticize about ourselves. Um, and so I really dug in deep to how vulnerable I felt around it, how weak and how needy I felt around money, and really that kind of disgust that I had for myself in that way. And yeah, it literally took like 2 hours till I got to a place where I was like, vulnerability is actually not bad at all. Vulnerability is what allows us to receive. So that's why I had never been a great earner, because I had never allowed myself that vulnerable part of money.
Mm.
So it's a really interesting contradiction, but one that allowed me to totally heal my lower back pain. I have had zero lower back pain since I did that work.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
incredible. That is
Yeah.
absolutely incredible. Women, that money thing is such a, at the surface, it seems like, oh, just money, money, right? Like, but it's actually so much deeper than just money. It's exchange of resources, it's sacred energy. It's also a bit
Yeah.
of the divine masculine,
Yes.
right? That we're
Having a
not
huge influence on us. Yes.
huge, right? And we're
Yeah.
not, especially, I always find that women writ large, gender inclusive, by the way,
Hmm.
we have that witch wound, right? We
Hmm.
have that visibility wound.
Yes.
Money being
Yes.
that if we have a lot, we're judging ourselves. If we don't have enough, we're judging ourselves and everywhere in between. And it's just this very, very interesting issue that we have within, like this
Oh, yeah.
push and pull.
It goes deep. It goes really
Yes.
deep. I mean, I have since then I have worked on it even more, like aspects of generationally
Mm.
thinking that I've been conditioned to believe that being an earner was not an attractive thing, like, and that took power away from the men in my family. Like if I, like my job was to take care of the kids and create a legacy for the family. It wasn't to earn, it was only to nurture. And if I was earning, then that would be more of a masculine type of energy and not attractive.
Mm,
When being that, being in that feminine state in a relationship was the norm, you know,
right.
going outside of that would have been really dangerous
Yeah,
from
100%.
just even a survival perspective. Like I had no ability to earn money on my own 100 years ago. So I couldn't risk doing that sort of
That's
thing.
right. That's right. And even now in your current lifetime, as a healer,
Mm-hmm.
right? Has
Mm-hmm.
that brought anything to the surface from past lives, that energy speaking, that's come forth as part of that witch wound?
Yes, yes. And in fact, I often include that in my tapping, like, trying to heal back all soul memory about this and all generational kind of instinct about it as well. I don't I don't have a specific thing about that, but I do take that into consideration all the time.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know past lives, people are like, oh, that's just so woo-woo, but it's not, especially if you come at it from simply the place of DNA, right?
Yes.
And DNA
Yes.
has memories, right? And we can
Oh my
change our
gosh, yeah.
DNA, which is that's the field of epigenetics, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
when we
Mm-hmm.
talk about past lives, it doesn't have to be this woo-woo thing. It's this beautiful spiritual essence, of course, right? We have
Yeah.
we're made of the stars and star lineage, but then it's very
Yeah.
rooted in the real lived experiences of our ancestors. And we see
Yeah.
that in collective trauma that comes forward from
Yes.
indigenous uh,
Yes.
the indigenous community. So
Yeah.
that's really, really fascinating. That's
Yeah.
really fascinating. So when you're doing sessions with people, how do you coach them through these? I'm assuming you can sense some very difficult experiences coming through individuals. So how do you hold space for people that are going through that?
We start really delicately, really gently, with trauma in particular. Um, a lot of people just don't want to go there. It's not, you don't want to lean into uncomfortable feelings in any way, shape, or form. And so sometimes we have to start with trauma like in a vault on the other side of town. And the client is the only one that has the combination or the key to that. And just the awareness of it and keeping the awareness of it in our conscious mind can be really triggering. So if we're starting off at a 10 on a scale from 0 to 10, we tap that down to 0 in the vault. And then maybe we move the vault a little bit closer. Still no contact with whatever's inside it, but we just very, very delicately move through the process. But that is the key to really unlocking who we really are, is by letting go of that stuff that holds us back in a million different ways.
So so that's really amazing to hear for people who are, say, really keen on, starting with their inner child work and trauma work, but are really kind of nervous about what would come
Mm-hmm.
up. And
Yeah.
because as you know, sometimes you can open the door a little bit and then it just gets kicked wide open
Yeah. Yeah.
just very, very, very quickly. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's good to know that they can kind of go at their own speed. So do you
Yeah.
think that tapping is something that people can also just be encouraged to do on their own as well? Is that, yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. That I might have a session with clients once a week, and 90 minutes of tapping is a good amount of tapping, and it will make progress. But if I can, no, I'll give my clients a recording always of the session. And if they can continue to tap with that, if we haven't neutralized whatever it is we're talking about,
Mhm.
then they will get that down within a matter of days if they do it even once a day. Like, the progress that people can make in such a short period of time is so profound that I'm always encouraging people that they can try doing stream of thought. And that was really difficult for me at the beginning. It's not as difficult now. Sometimes it's easier for an outside person to really kind of come up with the words and the emotions that are underneath it, because that subconscious mind is going to stop us from going there a lot of the time because it doesn't feel safe. So that's why it's beneficial to work with a coach sometimes. But if they can do stream of consciousness tapping, or they can even just keep it super simple, they can get one phrase like, I don't feel safe right now. I don't feel safe right now. I don't feel safe right now. And then they just keep tapping on that. No matter what, they are going to lower their cortisol levels 43% faster than if they had done nothing else. They will lower their heart rate, lower their blood pressure, increase their immune system response, and increase their happiness. All of that happens within a very short period of time. So it doesn't have to be a complicated tapping script or you just have to do it. And it can be really, really simple. It might not touch the root cause, but it will put a band-aid over whatever it is you're experiencing in a moment and allow you to move forward with your day, which is sometimes exactly what we need. We don't always have the time or the energy to get down to root causes and trauma work, but it will always be helpful. You can't, literally, you cannot get that wrong. You cannot get tapping wrong if you just focus on whatever it is you're feeling in a moment.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah.
love that. It sounds like it's the same with breath work. I always say that consistency is the most important thing, even if it's just a few minutes a day, or you can do tapping or breath work like in small increments throughout the day so that it becomes
Yeah.
ambient, right?
Yes.
Imagine the amount of scripts you could rewrite if you're just actually being mindful and aware of
Mm-hmm.
your body,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Like
Our
how many
body holds everything.
I
Yeah.
know, I know. And it's so funny, like in a day, since just practicing metacognition and breath work, because it sounds like we're
Hmm.
on the same page, it's just a
I
different
think so.
modality.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you start to realize how many times in a day you have a thought that previously went unnoticed that triggered a feeling in the body that then
Yeah.
sets you on a bit of a spiral where you're up in
Yeah.
those high beta brainwave states,
Yes.
that Dr. Joe
Yes.
talks about, right? That means
Yes.
that now you're
Totally.
spiraling, right? And we have to bring
Yes.
that down to alpha and all that good stuff.
Yes.
And it's just all you need is that little bit of awareness to
Hmm.
help you start to tap or to breathe and bring you down and change the
Yeah.
script.
Yeah. Present moment. Get into the present moment
Yes,
as much as you can. Yes. Yes. I
100%.
couldn't agree more. Couldn't
So,
agree more.
so the people that you work with,
Hmm.
do you find that they kind of skew to one gender or another?
Yes, definitely. I probably
Okay.
95% women.
Yeah, I
And
figured.
I think partially it's just the conditioning that we have around emotions. Women
Yeah.
are much more adept at accessing them and kind of engaging with them. And it's never traditionally been encouraged for men to do,
Mhm.
other than anger.
Right.
Anything else is seen as weakness. And even with women, if they're overly emotional, things are, I mean, you're accused of being hysterical and even committed at some points in history. So, I mean, we've all been conditioned to deny or repress or avoid in some way, shape, or form. So, across the board, what I've noticed is that people don't have a great sense of an emotional awareness about themselves. Even naming emotions, naming thoughts, and saying them out loud can be really cathartic because they have never done that. They operate in the spinning thought process, but actually getting the thoughts out of their body is something that they're not used to.
Mm.
And I've even had so many clients say, can I actually say that? Can I actually say that I'm mad or that I felt betrayed or that I felt, whatever the feeling is? And I'm like, yeah, it's important that you say it. It's important that you engage with it and you feel it because that alone is what allows us to release it from our body. It's
Mm.
the moving through it rather than avoiding it. But it's just not something we're used to. We don't have that muscle, that emotional muscle built up. And we avoid uncomfortable emotions like they are bad in some way, and they're not. They're just clues about what's going on in our body that we need to get curious about.
I
Yeah.
find that women, especially just in this, I've worked in communications for years. I'm also a
Mhm.
woman, a card-carrying member of the gender that was never taught to have hard conversations either,
Right.
where
Yeah.
you're able to speak truth to whatever power you're
Mhm.
interacting with, whether that's a partner, an employer, a subordinate, it
Yes.
doesn't matter, right? That
Yeah.
power imbalance is always there, but
Yes.
we're just we have a conflict style of communications, and for a lot of women, it's either total conflict avoidance, right? It's that
Right.
emotional avoidance,
Yes.
or it can swing the complete opposite direction where now you're hysterical, the hyper emotional,
Yes.
the rage that comes out, that righteous womanly anger that can come out after it's been bottled up, and now you've got the door. Now we've swung to a different unhealthy emotional state,
Yeah.
and people are just, it's total dysregulation. It's
Yeah.
that inability
Yeah.
to have that ability to speak your truth, to tell someone how you're actually feeling, or in a I guess they call it nonviolent communication. That's a whole other modality of communication, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
all, there's a theory of everything at play here for
Yeah.
women, right? And
Yeah. Yeah.
we're seeing the patterns coming forth, and we've always known about them, but we're talking about them more, especially as nervous system regulation it has entered the chat, and menopause, perimenopause, angry
Yeah.
women all over
Yeah.
Instagram, and I'm loving it, right? Like
I
it's
know.
it's starting to take over.
And the reality is that dysregulation is caused from unexpressed emotions. It's
Yes.
all of that repressed anger. It's all of that rage that we have not allowed. Then we have just gotten into our accommodating mode as
Mhm.
women. But the truth is, anger is the thing that allows us to set boundaries and have hard conversations.
Mhm.
Anger is the thing that tells us that something is unfair. And if we don't allow it, we have removed a really vital part of who we are. And I will say that, when once you open that door, once you kind of allow the feminine rage to happen, it can rage, but you can also get through it within, like, if you focused tapping on the feminine rage for a few hours, you would be almost through it or all the way through it.
Right.
And that type of processing is so powerful for our own healing, for our ability to be able to heal others and bring that really vital emotion back into our repertoire of tools that we have for ourselves. That is a really important step to take. So rage tapping, one of my favorite things to do. I actually really love it.
I I love that. I love rage tapping. That's
Hmm.
so amazing. Um, and I love what you said about how, as we heal ourselves, like that gives us the ability to heal others. And I think that's so important now, especially with the collective going through it
Yeah.
at the moment. No matter
Yes.
kind of where you are in the world, there's something happening, right? We've got Pluto and Aquarius right now. We've got just, we don't even need to talk about what's going on in the United States, right? Like it's
Yeah.
just women's rights, women's rage, and all that stuff. Women's rage is divine, right? Because
Hmm.
it's the divine feminine that's coming in, swooping in, also one half of the warrior to help rectify systems. And
Yeah.
so, how can individuals, like in your experience and what you've seen with your clients, how can individuals incorporate something like tapping to also tap into helping the wider collective?
The best thing anybody can do is do their own work. Do
Yeah.
their own work. Be an example of what is possible by doing your own work. I cannot stress that enough because if we haven't done that, we aren't authentic out in the world. And people pick up on that, whether they know it or not. People pick up on that. And I just think it happens one person at a time. It happens one fear at a time. Like the more you kind of check things off of your list and become whole, that's the thing that makes the biggest difference. Sometimes it's not the loudest voice, sometimes it's just the balancing out of ourselves that creates balance in the world.
Yeah. Every person who gets free
Yeah.
means that we've freed one more.
Yeah. The more I do my work, the more I can be an example to my daughter and have her grow up with a different framework, a different type of conditioning that makes her feel like she has a voice, that she is allowed to use it, that she can ask for her needs to be met, and have it be okay. Like that's my work. My work is to heal myself so I can not only tell her but show her.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
how has I actually love that you that you went there because motherhood is, one of those big cracking open moments of
Yeah.
spiritual awakening
Yeah.
as well.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
And how has motherhood helped define your own awakening journey?
I, it's been interesting in a lot of different ways. I feel like I want to, more than anything, I want to be an example for her for what is possible in her life. And that means looking at myself in the mirror and saying, what do I need to do for me? I've also been able to watch her and see kind of the fears that she came into this lifetime with and be able to put certain messages in her path that I know that she will benefit from, and encourage her in certain ways. But it's also told me that there are a lot of areas that I need to back away and allow her to have her experiences. I think prior to my own healing, I wanted to really get in there and fix everything for her. I wanted to just kind of take all the hurt away, knowing how much that affected me. But that is how we learn as us, how our soul learns is to go through tough experiences. And I will be there to comfort her afterwards, when something bad happens, but she has to go through these things. It's really hard to stand back and know that she's going to fall on her face, but she's not going to get better. She's not going to have her own soul's experience if I take that away from her.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It's so funny that you said that because I had those thoughts this week. I have a 3-year-old, and so
Mhm.
it was about sort of the concept of the unconditional love of source,
Yeah,
which is I love you so much that even if you choose to suffer, I will give you suffering. I will let you suffer. And
I
it's
know.
not because of a non-state of love. And as parents, we think it's unconditional love, but we've put conditions on our love, right? Because we don't want to
Yeah,
suffer by watching them suffer.
right.
That's the hardest part.
It's the hardest part. Like somehow I judge and criticize myself for her choices. And the truth is, she just has her own life.
Yeah.
And I will teach her to feed herself and I will teach her to, be a good person as much as I can. And then I will love her. I will love her. Her things that need healing and who she truly is in her heart and all of the armoring that she already came into this world with. And I will love exactly that no matter what shows up in that path. That's a decision I have to make as a mom
Yeah.
because it's
And
not going to always be pretty. It's
no.
not going to always be pretty, but I will still love her.
And you will tap. You will
And
tap.
I will tap on myself
Will
like
rage
crazy
tap.
so I can make it through this. And if she allows me, I will tap on her.
Yeah. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So, would you be willing to do a little tapping session right now for
Oh,
listeners, for people who are
sure.
watching and that kind of
Yeah,
thing?
yeah, yeah. I would be
Okay, it
happy
doesn't have to
to.
be long, but you can walk them through it and explain for people who are just listening.
Yes.
Yeah, you're good. Okay, awesome.
Yes, yes, I would love to.
Let's go
So
for
I'm
it.
going to go through all of the tapping points first so that everybody has a really good idea of where to be tapping. And this is one area that I encourage perfection because one of the tapping points is at the beginning of your eyebrows. But if you're tapping somewhere in the middle of your forehead, not nearly as effective. So you have to be a bit of a perfectionist and tap exactly where the spot is. Okay, so the first spot is just down from your pinky. It's called the karate chop point, and like you would hit a piece of wood, that's where you're going to be tapping. So you can either tap on one side of your body like this, or I like to tap on both sides by tapping those spots together.
Okay.
By the way, every single tapping practitioner practically is going to have different points that they tap on. None of them are wrong. This is the way I learned, and this is the way I like to do it.
Okay.
Okay, so at the karate chop point, this is where we're going to do an even though statement. It's called a setup statement. Even though I have this feeling, I still love and honor all parts of who I am. that sort of thing. And so I say that, and then you would repeat after me. And then as we continue to tap. So we do that
Okay.
3 times, and then we move to what's called repeater phrases. And then we tap on all the rest of the points throughout our body. So the first spot is right at the beginning of your eyebrow points. And the second is at your temple, right on the side of your eye. And then under your eye, right on top of your cheekbones, under your nose, under your mouth. And I'm tapping hard enough so that I can feel it, but not so hard that I'm going to hurt myself. The collarbone point. So if you find the beginning of your collarbone, you're going to go down about an inch. There's a little valley in between your collarbone and your ribs on either side of your sternum. So you tap right in that valley. And then we go to the underarms. I like to hug myself. So it's about 3 or 4 inches down from your armpit, right? For women, it's like right
Okay.
where your bra strap is.
Roger that.
Okay. The next spot is right underneath your breast, like right on your ribs, maybe 2 to 3 inches down from your nipple. And then on your wrists, and there's 3 acupressure points. So there's one on the outside, in the middle, and the outside. So when I'm tapping my wrists, I'm kind of turning them, see if I can hit all 3 spots.
Oh, I see. Okay.
My coach likes to tap like this. So maybe you can hit all 3 spots at once by doing it
Okay.
that way. And then the last one is up on top of your head.
Crown chakra.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, as we're doing the repeater phrases, we might be saying something like, I feel so anxious, or I feel unsafe. And each time you're going to move to the next spot and continue to tap there. So I get too flustered if I try to say which point we're going to go to next. So I'm
Okay.
not going to do that. But I just want to encourage your listeners that if they find a spot that feels like it needs a little extra attention or something, like even if it's tender there or something like that, feel free to kind of stay at that spot for a while. Just intuitively go where your body is telling you you need a little bit of extra attention.
Okay.
None of it is wrong, like I said, not going to hurt yourself in any way. So, what do you think would be a topic that listeners would do best with it? Something like overwhelm or anxiety? I mean, that tends to be a big topic a lot of people struggle with.
Yeah, absolutely. I always like to say that the primordial limiting belief is about self-worth. It
Always,
it
yes.
touches so many different things. So maybe let's explore that a little bit.
Okay, okay. So that's kind of a big one. And so, what I'm going to do is kind of start off high level, and then I'm going to
Sure.
bring it down and really try to touch the root of that. But then I'm
Beautiful.
going to spend some time bringing it back out because I don't want to kind of leave your listeners in a raw state
Okay.
as they go throughout their day. So we'll just start start there and see where it takes us.
Okay. Okay. Beautiful.
Even though a lot of the time I feel unworthy or undeserving of love. So you would repeat after me.
Even though a lot of the time I feel undeserving of love
For whatever reason or for a million reasons.
for whatever reason or for a million reasons,
I love and honor all my thoughts and feelings about this.
I love and honor all my thoughts and feelings about this.
Even though I really struggle to feel worthy and deserving.
Even though I really struggle to feel worthy and deserving,
I find so many faults in myself that I can't imagine anybody else would find me worthy or deserving.
I find so many faults with myself, I can't imagine how anybody else would find me worthy or deserving.
And I want to love and honor all parts of who I am anyway,
And I want to love and honor all parts of myself anyway,
even though I really struggle to feel worthy and deserving.
even though I really struggle to feel worthy and deserving.
I feel bad about myself a lot of the time,
I feel bad about myself a lot of the time,
insecure about who I am or what I look like.
insecure about who I am or what I look like.
And it's so hard when I feel this way all the time.
And it's so hard when I feel this way all the time.
And I deeply honor myself anyway.
And I deeply honor myself anyway.
And I honor my courage in tackling this issue.
And I honor my courage in tackling this issue.
Okay, now we're going to move to our repeater phrases and we'll start up on the eyebrow point. I feel unworthy and undeserving.
I feel unworthy and undeserving.
I feel that way a lot of the time.
I feel that way a lot of the time.
I don't even know what triggers it.
I don't even know what triggers it.
All of a sudden, I just feel really down or insecure.
All of a sudden, I feel just really down or insecure.
And it's hard to pull myself out of that place.
And it's hard to pull myself out of that place.
Sometimes I might even just feel anxious.
Sometimes I might even feel just anxious.
And I don't know what's triggered that feeling.
And I don't know what's triggered that feeling.
But my subconscious is telling me that one of my deepest fears is activated.
But my self-conscious is telling me that one of my deepest fears is activated.
Maybe I experienced some trauma as a kid.
Maybe I experienced some trauma as a kid.
Maybe I didn't even recognize it as trauma at the time,
Maybe I didn't even recognize it as trauma at the time.
but it created a fear in me,
But it created a fear in me,
a fear that there was something wrong with me,
a fear that there was something wrong with me,
that I shouldn't be allowed to take up space on this planet.
that I shouldn't be allowed to take up space on this planet.
It's not safe.
That's not safe.
And I am unworthy and deserving of love.
And I am unworthy and undeserving of love.
I made that decision as a little kid
I made that decision as a little kid
when I didn't have all the information.
when I didn't have all the information.
I was just responding to what was happening around me,
I was just responding to what was happening around me,
what the people were doing and what they were saying around me.
what they were doing and what they were saying around me.
And I adapted in the only way I knew how.
And I adapted in the only way that I knew how.
I assumed that I assumed that whatever I did would keep me safe.
I assumed that whatever I did would keep me safe.
If I tried to be perfect, I might avoid being harmed.
If I was perfect, I might avoid being harmed.
If I tried to please everybody around me, then they wouldn't get mad at me
If I tried to please everybody around me, they wouldn't get mad at me
and they wouldn't reject me.
and they wouldn't reject me.
I was trying so hard to get away from feeling unworthy and undeserving.
I was trying so hard to get away from feeling unworthy and undeserving.
And it makes perfect sense.
And it makes perfect sense.
I was just a little kid trying to make myself feel better.
I was just a little kid trying to make myself feel better.
And the truth is, I'm an inherently good human being.
And the truth is, I'm an inherently good human being.
I don't want to hurt people.
I don't want to hurt people.
I'm generally kind.
I'm generally kind.
And just the fact that I'm here means that I am worthy of being here.
And just the fact that I'm here means I'm worthy of being here.
I don't have to change anything.
I don't have to change anything.
I am a human being
I am a human being
who has had really difficult times and feelings,
who has had really difficult times and feelings,
and it has shaped me into the person I am today.
and it has shaped me into the person I am today.
And maybe that's how it was supposed to be.
And maybe that's how it's supposed to be.
Maybe I chose those experiences before I got here.
Maybe I chose those experiences before I got here,
And I meant to learn this lesson
and I meant to learn this lesson
that I am more than worthy and deserving.
that I am more than worthy and deserving.
And There are light beings that love every single aspect of who I am.
And there are light beings that love every single aspect of who I am.
And I want to trust that.
And I want to trust that.
I want to trust that they know better than I do,
And I want to trust that they know better than I do.
that they love me unconditionally because I am worthy of it.
That they love me unconditionally because I am worthy of it.
And I deeply honor all my thoughts and feelings about this.
And I deeply honor all of my thoughts and feelings about this.
And I want to consistently be open to seeing it from this perspective,
And I want to be consistently open to seeing it from this perspective,
from the perspective of my higher self,
from the perspective of my higher self,
and let go of all the fears beneath it.
and let go of all the fears beneath it.
Okay, take a nice deep breath. Tell me what you're thinking.
It's just so powerful.
Oh, Chelsea. Yeah.
I just got like full body chills and
Oh my
like
gosh,
a
that's
vision
wonderful.
of little me and so many just different things popped up. Sorry.
Oh
I'm sorry.
no, this
I
making
did
somebody
not.
cry means success to me. That means release. I love it. I love it.
Wow. That was so beautiful. And unexpected, I think. You
Yeah.
probably get that a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, it was very strange. Like there was gosh, it reminds me of breathwork so much because
It truly does. Yeah.
suddenly you'll see a vision of you, like a little girl vision. I guess that's that inner child that you're speaking to through it. And
Yeah.
wow, what a I'm sorry. I'm speechless a little bit.
I love that you're having this reaction.
Thank you.
You are so welcome.
I can only imagine that anybody else watching or listening has this same experience.
I hope so too. I really
Yeah,
do.
I am truly I'm truly speechless. Thank you.
You're
Um,
welcome. You're
let's talk a
welcome.
little
Yeah.
bit about your app then,
Oh,
because
yes.
because I want people to learn about where they can get access to this practice.
Yeah, I created the app because, when I got all excited and passionate about finding these foundational fears and working through them, I discovered that there really wasn't a tool out there that accessed the full power of tapping. So that's when I set out to make my own app. And I really wanted to get to the root cause of a lot of these issues. And so there's over 170 now tapping scripts and meditations on the app. So there's something to fit pretty much every circumstance, and we're still adding all the time. But some of them will put a band-aid on things, but there are a lot of videos that will tell you how to get down to that root cause and how to start from that really beginning place so that your efforts with tapping will be the most effective and most efficient
Okay.
approach. Because, if somebody go with depression goes to the app, they're not going to know where to start. There's 160 different tapping scripts. I don't even
Yeah.
what? What? Like, it's too much. And so we really need a bit of a guide to take us through and say, here's where you start. And then from there, go to here. And then from here, go to there. And, that's the way to move through things like that to have the fastest kind of rate of healing
For,
possible.
for sure. I guess
Yeah.
it's funny because when we talked about self-worth, you said that, that's a really big topic because there's so many things involved, right?
Yeah.
And it's that delayering process because what is depression except like a big ball of it's like an onion. Depression's the onion, right? And how many
Yeah,
layers?
it's all of those parts of us that we have denied and made wrong, and it makes us like a Swiss cheese, a piece of Swiss cheese with just a bunch of holes and, no substance to ourselves. And it's the process of kind of tapping through our shadows, like tapping through that vulnerability for me, tapping through even fear of anger. If you've had somebody that's had a lot of destructive anger in your life, then of course you would want to get as far away from it as possible. But bringing it back in fills in all of those holes and makes it so that we can move forward from a more authentic place, which means no depression.
Right.
So depression is that Swiss cheese, that person with zero kind of structure to who they are, walking through the world and no sense of themselves. And it's only allowing those shadows back in that we become whole again.
Wow, that's absolutely incredible.
Yeah,
How has your app been going? It's built, right?
it's
It's
built.
available.
Yeah. Yeah, we launched, it'll be 2 years in September.
Okay.
And it's an ongoing process. It's been slow to start, and we're gaining some momentum now, which is a really good thing. But we're also still dealing with kinks, I'm afraid to I'm afraid to say. But it's
Technology.
a bit of a beast, if I'm honest, that I have no concept of before starting this process. And I'm not a technical person, obviously. I'm a tapper. So it's a learning process constantly, and we keep getting better. And I just hope more and more people engage for their
Yeah.
own sake.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
That's what happens when spiritual folks get involved with technology. There's
I
always,
know, right?
well, it's a learning process, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah,
I have faith that, yeah, more and more people, that network effect, right, will kind of kick in and
yeah,
it will grow, you know.
yeah.
So
I truly hope so.
especially with how not only how powerful the modality is, but just the energy that you bring to it
Hmm.
as well. I mean, I can only imagine that your clients are probably just over the moon with your work because I have personally
Thank
felt
you.
it now. So,
Thank
wow.
you. Thank you. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that.
No, thank you so much
Yeah.
for your time. And before we close, I just want to ask you, is there anything else that you would really like to leave people with, or anything that you felt like we haven't touched on today?
I think the most profound learning that I have had over the last 20 years of tapping is that no emotion is bad. None. That might be uncomfortable and we're not used to feeling it, but it's amazing how powerful leaning in to the emotion can actually be. I think studies have even shown that literally like 90 seconds of feeling an emotion allows it to start dissipating. That's the process of moving through it and like really sink into your body and allow yourself to feel it wherever it's coming up for you in your system and just sit with it. It's not going to kill you. And it is really scary at first, but the more we kind of build that emotional muscle, the easier life is. We're not getting rid of any emotions. We are teaching ourselves to feel them and move through them. So that's probably the biggest learning I've taken from my time with tapping. But I don't know that I've mentioned this before. They can find the Soar with Tapping app. That's what it's called, Soar with Tapping, on either Google or Apple Play stores. And if they go to my website, soarwiththapping.com/podcast dash special, they will find a code that they can put into the app to get 50% off of their first annual subscription.
Oh, wonderful. And I'll make sure that all of those links go into the show notes as well, so
Wonderful.
people can access them and links to your social media and all those good things. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, well, thank you so much, Amy, for coming on and for sharing your beautiful modality and energy with me.
No, thank
It
you so
was
much for
it was
having me.
beautiful and unexpected, we'll say. And
Yeah,
so
it's a
I'd
little
love
disarming, isn't
it,
it?
yes, very much
Yeah,
so.
yeah,
Absolutely. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it thoroughly, and my
yeah,
intention is always for this to ripple out and reach those for whom it's meant and who are in need. So
yeah,
thank you
yeah.
so much.
You are so welcome. Thank you for having me.
Cheers. Thanks for being here. If something stirred within you today, that's not an accident. It's a shift. To go deeper, visit thesovereignshift.ca, where you'll find breathwork audios, resources, mini courses, workshops, and programs to support your reclamation, body, mind, and soul. Like, follow, and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, and toss us a follow on social media if you're so inclined. And remember, your breath is your power. Your truth is your compass. Your sovereignty is the revolution. Until next time, stay sovereign.